You're not your personality. You're not your name. You're not your race. You're not your creed. You're not your gender. The stories that we tell ourselves on a day-to-day basis define our personality. But there's something deeper within us that recognizes when we're thinking or recognizes that personality. And not to get too religious on anything, but the Bible says the mind can't comprehend the things of the spirit, which means there's a clear distinction between our mind and our spirit. So anybody out there dealing with anxieties or stress or depression, and man, you don't know if you can make it, you don't know how you go on, or you've experienced loss or something happens, that's just thoughts and ideas and stories about who we think we are. But you're something way more special than that. Every cell in your body was forged from the cosmos, the stars, from the beginning of time until now. And if you can recognize that you're that person, that you're one with all, that you were created by the Father in heaven, if you want to use biblical terms again, and you can move from that place, man, you'll start seeing how things in your life will change, and you speak with a little bit more authority, and you can move around this earth with more peace in your heart without letting these little things affect you. I have a quote on my WhatsApp. It says there's 2 rules in life. Rule number 1, don't sweat the small stuff. Rule number 2, it's all small stuff.
This is Sparta!
I'm your host, Josh Kosnick. Hey, and if this is your first time here, welcome. We are a Leader to Leader podcast, having conversations with incredible leaders, entrepreneurs, and all sorts of folks that can help you inspire, bring you inspiration, and impact your life in a real high level. That being said, share these episodes. We're real happy to be a part of the top 2% of podcasts in the world and growing real fast thanks to all of you. So appreciate you listening, appreciate you tuning in, and can't wait to bring you even more impact. So that being said, I got my new friend Justin Cobb on the line from Orlando, Florida today, and excited to get into his brain. You all know that I'm really into health and wellness. And so I bring different voices into this onto this platform to bring you more knowledge on the health and wellness. Because I believe if we can show up as our best selves, our healthiest selves, both mentally and physically, we can change and impact the people in front of us. So Justin, welcome to the show, brother.
Hey, Josh, man, I appreciate it, man. Thank you for having me. Looking forward to it.
So I always want to start with a little backdrop. Like, what was your story? I know you're a UCF Golden Knight. Now everyone knows that. Right. So you were in school the same time my brother Jake was, and you got onto this fitness journey and into this world through your master's, and then pretty much start right in it. But like, take us back on the journey, like you starting your own business, all this different jazz that came along with it. I always kind of wanted people to get a little bit of the origin story.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I really didn't get introduced to the health field through school. My mother was a doctor of oriental medicine, acupuncture physician. So as I was coming up, as early as middle school and high school, she always had me thinking about health and stuff in a different way. Back then the trends were a little different than they are now, but I remember that we were always the house that didn't have like sugar. We didn't have flour, like no wheat in our house. She always had us eating healthy. But then when it came to when we weren't feeling well. Like, for example, if I had a headache in high school, I'd come home, I say, hey, Mom, I got a headache. And she would ask me questions like, well, why do you think you have a headache? Did you hit your head? Did you bang it playing football? Did you drink enough water today? Did you eat something funny? Are you stressed out? So she always had me trying to figure out the reason for why I was feeling what I was feeling, as opposed to, okay, well, here, pop an Advil. So that kind of set the base layer for me. So as I was going into college, I was, wondering how can I progress this? Because, I was into health, I wanted to stay around sports, but man, I'm 5'7", 180. So I don't really have the collegiate or professional frame. So I was like, man, how do I stay around sports? Because that was my passion, but also be able to help people. So I was like, the healthcare field is where I could do that. I was brought up, like I said, holistic. So I was a little anti-surgery. And I feel like, this is a whole different topic, but the medical the medical establishment, overprescribes pain pills, overdo surgery. Like sometimes surgery is needed, but a lot of times these doctors are prescribing things and prescribing pills and doing surgeries and procedures that just aren't needed. So my initial thought was, to go to med school, maybe do orthopedic surgery. And I was like, that doesn't really fit with who I am as a person. So I was like, what can I do to continue helping people, but fits with my values and my belief system? So I settled on first athletic training. So I got my undergrad in athletic training, and those are the guys that are first responders running out to the field when, a football player tears their ACL or, gets banged up with a concussion, and they evaluate and they treat and they work with the athletes and they work with the team. But I soon found out that, they work crazy hours and they really don't get paid. And I did the math one time, and this was at the time the head athletic trainer at UCF, and he was making something like $9 an hour with the amount of work that he was putting in, and his responsibilities were through the roof. So I said to myself, I was like, well, that's not it. Can't do that. So I got my master's degree in physical therapy. And through physical therapy and the company I was working for, I was able to start exploring with these different ideas I had about health and wellness, and how, certain three-dimensional movements, and how if you incorporate dietary changes into a person's life, and if you start de-stressing their mind, now all of a sudden people start responding differently to treatments. And I was experimenting with this throughout my career, where let's just say I had three patients and they all had a herniated disc at, L4, L5 with similar symptomology. And, one person just does exercises, but this person, is doing exercise and has a healthier diet. Now, person three, they eat well, they had a good fitness level coming into it. They do prayer and meditation, and they do things to keep their mind clear. And man, like that person heals much quicker. So as I was experimenting with these clients and different techniques and things that I learned, I was like, man, I would really love to have a facility that incorporated all of these things in one place. And at the time, this is probably 2007, that didn't exist. And man, that's what we created over here at ND Wellness.
And you went into business with a friend, right?
Yeah, so that was man, that was a everything in life is a process and a journey. I quote this a lot, but the journey of 10,000 miles begins with one step. So everything starts with almost an idea and an intention, and then slowly but surely, as you work towards your goal, things start falling into place. Now there was a he wasn't a friend at first. He was another UCF graduate who was working with a mentor of mine in a facility that I was working in. So we actually had three people that had competing businesses, working together under the same roof with the same philosophies. So as I was, plotting of how I'm going to get my own location and who I would want to work with me, I was watching this young man and how he was working, and I was like, man, he would be a perfect person to bring on board with me with this vision and start executing. So he went away for Australia for a year, and was living out of a van with his wife, just kind of exploring and doing life. And when he came back, he was like, "Man, I really don't know what to do." And I was like, "Man, well, here, I tell you what, here's what's been on my mind, and here's what I want to do. Man, what do you think?" And he's like, "Yo, let's do it." And man, we started something, and we haven't looked back.
So I want to dig in on that because a lot of people may have an idea. They may have an idea with a friend. They may vibe with a friend.
Yeah.
And oftentimes, friendships and business partnerships can really go astray. And I often equate business partnerships to marriage because oftentimes business partnerships will split, have a divorce, if you will, just like a marriage will, when their philosophies don't align, when their values don't align, when their visions don't align. Or they
Right.
just, when the money starts coming in, because at first there's no money. And then
Right.
as the money starts rolling in, it can change people. How have you guys structured yourself from the beginning to how you, because you guys have been in business over a decade now?
Yeah, we paired together probably right around, yeah, 2015, in a smaller capacity. And now, like you said, now we're to where we are now. Um, me personally, now this is just me personally, and this might not have been the smartest thing to do, looking back, but man, I'm a feel person. I'm a vibe person. I really dive into my intuition, what my intuition feels. I talk to advisors around me who I respect and get their opinions on things, and then I make my own decision. So, when you talk to somebody at first, they're going to tell you all the downfalls of having a partner and giving up equity in a company and what else. But I said to myself, I know I can go further with somebody who has the same vision. Right. Like two people carrying a bag are going to walk further than one person carrying a bag. Right. That's just the fact of life. You have more manpower, more horsepower. So when we first teamed up together, it was just man, no real structure. We were just young kids. We were both practitioners. So neither one of us really was what I would call, a CEO or a business builder, but this is what actually set the foundation for us to grow. We just started working in what we were passionate about and what we were good at. And we were working with professional athletes here in Orlando, and we were working just out of a little corner of a CrossFit gym for a while. All we did was have a table set up, but we were having these PGA professionals and Major League Baseball players and NFL people and coming to see us in this little CrossFit gym. We also worked out of this huge baseball facility, and one day the guy who owned the facility called me. I was actually down in South Florida at a Dolphins game. It was a Sunday afternoon, and no heads up or anything. He's like, Justin, man, we closed down the facility. We moved all our stuff out of there. You may want to go and get all your stuff out. And I was like, in my mind, like, yo, what the fuck? Like, man, who does that? And no heads up or anything. So again, me and my partner, we were actually squatting out of this building because we still had our key. We didn't have another location yet, and we were just going to the facility, hoping that the doors would still open up with our keys. And lo and behold, they did. So we worked about 2 months out of this. I guess it was an abandoned facility, still working with these professional athletes, still growing our practice. Um, and then through relationships, one of the gentlemen who I worked with in the past, he said, "Hey, Justin, if I buy this facility, this building, would you want to come in there and, lease space?" And it was a 12,000 square foot building. And he's like, take half of it. So, 6,000 square feet. So we were going from a little corner of a CrossFit gym, probably paying something like $600 a month. I don't even really remember what it was, to now, taking on a lease of 6,000 square feet, $7,000 a month here, in at the time. And mathematically, it really didn't make sense, but we believed in ourselves, and we just took that leap of faith. It was kind of one of those, hey, if you build it, they will come. So
Mm-hmm.
we took that leap of faith. Now, I'm gonna say God, the universe conspired and brought people into our lives that helped us with the build out, almost at cost. And people just started coming out of the woodworks to help us, to get to where we're at. And now we have, before it was just me and my partner. Now we have 20 employees working with us. We're looking to do our second location at the end of next year, and it really just came from one, trusting that we're good at what we do, two, taking that leap of faith, and then three, I would say constantly working on ourselves and listening to people who have done it before us, who are giving us guidance, reading books like, the E-Myth, and learning how to manage people and learning about a leadership team. And now, putting those pieces in place to, as we grow as a company, we have those pieces in place. But when you ask, what happened when we started, man, we were just two dudes with the dream that, you know, jumped off the side of a ledge and made it work.
Dude, it makes me smile because we have a lot of entrepreneurs that listen to this show, but also, and they may be on the beginning end of their journey, and we have some aspiring entrepreneurs I know as well. That's the entrepreneur's journey, right?
Well,
You
man,
guys think about this. He's essentially squatting at an abandoned CrossFit gym.
not
Not
essentially,
know,
not essentially. We were squatting.
not to say no,
Yeah, we were
literally,
100% squatting.
literally squatting.
Yeah.
And that means that any moment they could be shut down.
Mhm.
Any moment those doors could get the locks could change. And
So,
yet they had faith and they continued to build. And then also that relationship comes in and decides to buy the building, lease the space back to him, which at that time, mathematically, it didn't work, but they continued to work. and continue to build the dream. Like that is the entrepreneur's journey, because on the other end of that, all people see is what you've built today. They didn't see the struggle of you guys squatting in that building for 2 months before you even, got to where you're at today. So I
Sure.
just want to highlight that, because so many people look at the success that you may have now, or look at the success that I've had now, and think, oh, it just must have been easy for him. And that's never the case.
No, man, sometimes I think back on it, and it's easy for me to get choked up because I mean, I can't tell you the nights sleeping in the building underneath, paint fumes, because I know, man, I have to work through the night to make this place look just good enough to be able to bring somebody in and they're not like, what the heck is happening here? So, people never see those nights of sleeping on the floor and grinding and doing drywall and painting and, just the back and forth and showing up at 3, 4 a.m. to grab stuff because you forgot something. It's really easy to look at the end product and say, like what you said, oh, well, that was easy, man. They probably had rich parents or something that gave them money or, whatever else it might be. But yeah, that definitely wasn't the case with us.
And then you go on to hire employees, and then a different challenge arises, right? I always say this, like, you will never appreciate what the entrepreneurial journey is until you've had to sacrifice paying your own bills to make sure someone else gets paid.
Right. Absolutely. I think back to my first job when I first graduated and I was working for that sports physical therapy company. I was an employee just like any other employee, and I mean, I learned a tough lesson early on, but it helped me be an entrepreneur now. So, you're working as an employee and you have your yearly review or, whatever it might be. And I remember going into my yearly review and, obviously I'm just like anybody else. It's like, hey, I want more money. And the gentleman who hired me to this company is still a mentor of mine to this day. And he taught me at the time a hard lesson, but now looking back, a very valuable lesson. And long story short, he says, Justin, the job market for a physical therapist is this. If you want this, you have to show me how you're bringing this company more money. Like, what are you doing to generate more money so I could justify paying you more, and I remember thinking at the time, well, I was like, well, I don't even have the opportunity to do that, right? Because I'm just booked, whatever, 9 to 5 as a therapist, seeing clients, and I don't even have that opportunity. And in that company, that opportunity didn't exist, which was the catalyst, one of the catalysts for me saying, man, I need to go out and do my own thing if I really want to create my own vision of what I think healthcare should look like and redefine healthcare, but also up my earning potential. So I mean, I remember at the time feeling like a piece of shit because basically the guys like saying, "Hey man, you're not good enough to make more money." But it's that also that catalyst where now, as a business owner, and I can have these conversations with my employees in a way of, yeah, man, let's talk about what we can do as a team and as a company to generate more money so we can all make more money. That's the key to it.
Yeah, and actually he wasn't wrong.
No, he
That's
wasn't wrong at
the
all. I mean,
that's that's the thing.
no, he was, man, it was amazing. Like I tell you, that's one of the best lessons I've learned in business.
Right? Because at the time he was filling your calendar for you. And
Right.
so that's what a lot of employees don't understand is, okay, well, like let's take an example of a hair salon, which Justin doesn't need anymore since he shaves his head.
Yeah.
But let's think about a hair salon, right? Let's say all the walk-in business that's getting fed to you through their own marketing.
Right.
And you go, okay, I want to make some more. Well, okay, what business are you bringing to the table
Right.
to justify you making more? Right? You may oh, your calendar's full. That's great, but that's all because of our marketing efforts that
Yeah.
we pay for to make sure that you stay busy.
Right.
Right? So that's what employees also have to understand is, what are you bringing to the table to make that business more money, to justify you making more money? So it was a great lesson for him to teach you in that moment, and it created some more epiphanies. But someone else, someone with a lesser maybe mental aptitude at that time, it goes, man, fuck that guy. He has no idea what he's talking about. I bring so much value to the business.
Mhm.
And they take it as a victim mentality, and then they quit and go somewhere else, and they will repeat that cycle until they learn the full lesson.
Amen, amen to that. And like you said, it's that victim mentality where it's like, but man, hey, but I'm really good at my job and all my clients like me. It's like, well, but that's what we pay you to do. Because here, if you weren't good at your job and none of the clients like you, we'd fire you. So
Right.
you get paid this salary to do that job, and you should do a really, really good job if you have integrity about who you are as a person.
No, that's spot on. Let's transition a little bit because I was watching some of your content, doing some research as we got on here. What makes you at ND Wellness different from the competitors out there?
Man, ooh, I love this question. So traditionally speaking, when you go to a physical therapy place or a chiropractor facility, everything's separate, right? You go to physical therapy, you do physical therapy. You go to a chiropractor, you get an adjustment. Sometimes maybe they have some supplements or other things. Um, as I was working with these professional athletes and with my ideas about health and wellness, I'd be working with the athlete and I might do their post-op rehab if they had, whatever, knee surgery or something. And then they're like, hey, well, Justin, can we continue working out with you? Because we really like your philosophies. You know, we like you as an individual and we want to keep training. So I was like, yeah, of course. And we're talking to them. They're like, all right, well, man, tomorrow I'm going to see the chiropractor. And on Saturday, I have a massage. And on Monday, I'm meeting my nutritionist. And on Tuesday, I'm doing this with the team. And I started thinking, I was like, man, what if I could bring the best of everything that I believe in under one roof and they all talk to each other? Because I know one of the biggest frustrations I hear from people in healthcare, and I'm talking about clients and patients. They're like, I saw this doctor and he didn't talk to my physical therapist and they don't know what's going on. And then I'm seeing, this massage therapist and they don't know what's happening. You're telling your story over and over and over again. So I had this vision of, man, what if I had the best of everything under one roof? Everybody knows what that patient client's goal is, and we're all working together as a team with our individual skill sets to bring that person to where they need to go. Um, so that was kind of one thing that makes us special. So I feel we have the best of the best of the best under one roof, all talking to each other to help you, the client. The second thing is we've incorporated in, man, I don't know how technical you want to get here if you want to nerd out on this, but
Oh, we're gonna nerd out some, but
all right,
you go with
all
it.
right, let's nerd out a little bit. I'm actually going to rewind a little bit. So every single thing in our body is a cell, right? Whether we're talking about your muscle, your skin, your brain, your heart, your bones, your liver, everything is a cell, right? So all our cells are programmed to perform specific functions. And if that cell malfunctions, we have a symptom, and then us as a species and as a health community, we label it. So for example, right, if a liver cell is malfunctioning, maybe we call it cirrhosis. If a bone cell malfunctions, it's a fracture. If a muscle cell malfunctions, it's a strain, right? A ligament, it's a sprain. A heart attack, brain aneurysm, whatever it might be, skin tumor. But at the end of the day, these are just names for cellular malfunction. So in essence, there's only one disease in the whole entire world. And that dis-ease, a dis-ease of the cell is cellular malfunction. The cell is malfunctioning. So I asked myself, all right, what causes a cell to malfunction? And there's only two ways that a cell malfunctions. It gets too much bad stimuli or it's not getting enough good stimuli. Right. So and people might say, all right, well, what is that? All right, well, good stimuli, let's call it vitamins, minerals, hydration, good movement, calories. We can even throw love in there, peace. All right, what's bad stimuli? Well, man, that list is exhaustive from, you know, chemicals in the environment, pesticides, poor movement, sitting around, stress, fluoride in toothpaste, aluminum in deodorants. I mean, the list goes on and on of all the bad things that we're bombarded with from, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, radiation, 5G, mold, exhaustive list. So in our culture, we're bombarded with this negative stimuli, and we're also not doing the things that we need to give ourselves good stimuli, getting sunlight and movement and all those other things. So I was like, man, as I'm creating this place, I want to be able to one, educate people on what are some negative stimuli and how could we possibly remove those from our life, and what's good stimuli that our cells need that I can introduce to people and allow them to learn that is now going to allow their cells to be a reflection of what they're truly meant to be. And at the end of the day, that's health. So if you look at our logo, it's that glow with a lot of little circles in it that makes a big circle. So the reason why I picked that was each of those little circles is something that you could do for your health. And when you put it all together, you get that big circle of what I call a healthy cell or healthy life, or, the natural circle of things, which is in essence health. So what makes us different is that we look at that cell holistically. And I think, okay, well, what are the things from a structural perspective, purely structural, that people need to feel good? All right, well, they need to move their body the way that it was intended to move. Well, taking into account the gait cycle and running and throwing and how all our fascial lines connect to each other and how a big toe can throw off a hip. And, it goes deep into how we look at the body from a joint by joint perspective and how it all connects together to allow the human body to move. And then we design programs that optimizes movement in people. So whether you're, a military guy or a CrossFitter or an athlete or just somebody that sits at a desk, we all have these structural adaptations and compensations that predispose our body to injuries when we try to do something movement related, and everyone's at different capacities. Some people hurt themselves bending down to pick up their grandkids, and some people hurt themselves sprinting. But at the end of the day, we look at the body from that structural perspective, and then we teach a specific movement system to what I call bring the body back into balance and optimize movement functions and movement mechanics. Then we look at the body from a biochemistry perspective. So I say biochemistry is what you bring into your body and what you put onto your body, right? So what you eat, what you drink, what lotions you use, what potions you use, what deodorants you use, what toothpaste are you using, shampoos, conditioners. When we think about the amount of products and things that we introduce onto our body every single day, you have to ask, man, well, is this stuff good for me? Like you could look at the back of a bar of generic soap and man, there's so many chemicals on there. You can't even pronounce it. Your skin
Yep.
is your largest organ. And man, we're washing our body with this stuff daily. And then we're taking this shampoo with chemicals and sodium lauryl sulfates and we're rubbing it onto our head and rubbing it onto our brains. And then we're wondering, why we have, ADDs and, all these, crazy things that are happening. Look at your typical deodorant. Like if you look at Old Spice, like what's in there, and you're putting that right on your armpits where you have all these lymph nodes, which has to do with the immune system. And what ends up happening is our systems are resilient, but we bombard it with these products, right? And that's just talking about products. Now, what are you eating? Are you taking in enough calories, the right calories? What's in your food? Does it have, was it sprayed with pesticides? Does it have hormones? Was the meats that you're eating treated with antibiotics? Or the fruits organic? Or are they loaded with chemicals and pesticides and weed killers that now we bring into our body that damages our cells? And then a really, really big thing is electrical magnetic radiation from electronics. If we go historically back, evolutionarily speaking, we didn't really have electricity. We woke up in our teepees, we went outside, we had a little loincloth on, we got the good UV light from the sun at sunrise. The men went out and worked and hunted and, walked around barefoot on uneven terrain. The women, planted food and took care of the children. Nowadays, what do? We wake up, maybe we pop on our lights, we probably brew a cup of coffee, watch Sports Center, on the TV, and we're not getting those same stimuli that we got historically and evolutionarily speaking that our cells need to feel good. Um, so from that biochemistry perspective, what are you bringing into your body and what are you putting onto your body and how you can optimize that? And then the third thing, and I think this is the most overlooked aspect of health, is what you think. What you think affects your body every single second and minute of the day. And people are like,
Amen.
no, what do you mean? And I tell people all the time, I said, think about, biting a big, juicy lemon. And, What happened? Some people are like, oh, my mouth watered. Other people say, oh yeah, my glands got tight. I was like, well, did you bite a lemon? They're like, no. Just that thought and the programming that's in your brain caused the actual physiological change in your structure and in your body and in your cells and in your hormones from a thought. So just like that whole lemon drill, worries and anxieties and the day-to-day thoughts that we have in our mind is always thinking is constantly changing our body. Now I believe that all three of these work synergistically all the time, and our body is always moving and adapting to these things. And I think at sometimes in our life, one might be more important than the other, but in essence, they're all working together all the time. So at ND Wellness, or here we really try to optimize the structure, the biochemistry, and then the mental emotional aspect of a person to allow them to be that picture of health. And that just doesn't really exist anywhere else.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I know a lot of that stuff. The problem is the vast majority of the people don't, and that's why I wanted to have you on the show. So, what testing do you guys do, or what can be done if someone's like, "Man, that makes a lot of sense, Justin. Where do I start?"
Well, I mean, if you're local here in Central Florida, man, I would say, come see us. I think that's the beauty of what we do. Is, man, it's a guided program because, like you said, just a lot of people don't know that, and even if you do, it's like, all right, well, how do I do it all? How can I get it all? How is it? So, we package it and we give it to you in a nice tied up box that just works. There's actually really no way you can fail if you start doing all these things. um if you're not local, what I would say is try to implement little by little. So I read a book by Gandhi, and the book was called My Experiments with Truth. And that has resonated with me throughout my life, where I really experiment with truth. I experiment with things and I see what works for me and my body. So when I designed this place, I brought in the things that worked for me. We have hyperbaric chambers and infrared saunas and red light therapies and compression and biomechanics training, because that's the stuff that allowed me to feel good in my body and be the confident reflection of who I am as a spiritual being, as a man, as an individual. So I would encourage listeners to do some research on your own, start testing things out for yourself, make little changes that don't stress you out or don't feel overwhelming. And as you start realizing those changes in your body, and you start seeing the results, then you start adding a little bit more in, and it's kind of that snowball effect. As that snowball starts rolling down a hill, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until it really just becomes, I don't want to say who you are, because that has nothing to do with who you are, but at least from your physical body, you could be that picture of health.
Yeah, 100%. I think that you hit on the food piece too, is understanding the organic and where your food comes from. The longer the shelf life of your food,
Yeah.
the
Yep.
worse it is for you,
Yeah, they say, well,
right?
the longer the shelf life, the shorter your lifespan.
Yeah, it's true. And so you also need to know what's going on under the hood, like Justin said. So getting your blood panels done, not
Yep.
from your doctor, but someone that's going to take a more holistic look. Your general practitioner is looking at just a few biomarkers, and those aren't telling the whole story. You can also, I just got this test done to get my cellular levels checked. I just did a spit and urine sample. I literally sent it in yesterday, so I'm waiting for my results. So I have some contacts as well. If anyone's listening to this and wants to get a check under the hood on how your body's performing. But the spit test was interesting. I did 4 different times during the day, and because it's trying to really measure my stress levels and how my thyroid and everything else is producing and reacting to stress throughout the day, from my understanding. But maybe you can give us some more light on that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's man, you made a good point to do it throughout the day. Now our bodies are complex machines, and there's so many layers that go into our body and our health. And a lot of times, people do these blood tests, and let's say I'm gonna use something pretty common, like, oh, my body is low in iron, right? So they start supplementing iron, but the reason why their body is low in iron is not necessarily because they're not bringing it into their body, but it's their body doesn't have the capability to absorb it. So now you're bringing in this iron into your body still can't absorb it, and you end up feeling worse because now you're overloaded with iron and you can get these iron toxicities and other issues. So like I said, man, there's layers to it. And if anybody tells you that they fully understand the body and they got it all figured out, run. Because I don't even think anybody's close to fully understanding the body. But going back to that intuition, when you watch something or if you hear something and it resonates with who you are and where you're at on your path, trust it, experiment with it, and see how your body feels. As I look back to my own health journey, like, man, I've experimented with, veganism, with keto, with intermittent fasting, with carnivore diets, with just eating a balanced diet. I mean, I've tested out everything on myself to see how my body responds and how I feel and what happens. And it none of it, I can't say any of it is good or bad, but it all was in its perfect timing and its perfect place to give me the understanding of who I am now and what works for me now. And you know what? That could probably change significantly in 10, 15 years. Who knows what comes out and what's shown. But again, going back to the listeners, I do think blood panels and things are a very good place to start to get a look under the hood and see where you're at. And, maybe do it again, like you said, throughout the day or in another 2 months. Cause I mean, our bodies are changing rapidly based off of what we're eating, stress, what we're doing, what's going on in our life. And your blood can look this way now, and then in 3 days it can look completely different because something happened in your life that caused stress.
Yep.
So
So let's talk
go
about
now
the
go.
products real quick, because you brought those up, from shampoos to deodorants to lotions, all the different
Mhm.
stuff. This has been a big thing for me. I posted recently, I didn't wear sunscreen at all this summer. I
Right,
also didn't wear sunglasses at all this summer. And
right,
I learned through some research of my own that if we don't wear sunglasses when we first are exposed to sun, our body is automatic. The cells trigger our skin to produce more melanin and protect us
right.
from that sun. So
Mhm.
I tested that theory this summer, did not wear sunscreen all summer, and didn't get burnt once. Now, granted, I'm in Wisconsin, you're in Florida. It might be a little bit different with the heat of the sun. You still got to, get whatever exposure you're going to get. Make sure you get back into the shade as soon as you start feeling like you're getting too much.
Right,
Understand all that premise. Everyone has different skin types. Understand that premise as well. What I'm saying is, most sunscreens out there are full of toxic chemicals.
yep,
And there's a reason when you go visit Hawaii, they say you can only have these sunscreens if you're
mm,
going to go in the ocean.
right,
Whereas the vast majority of sunscreens you cannot put on your skin if you're going to go into the ocean in Hawaii. And most people don't even stop to go, well, why is that? If the
right.
sunscreen isn't good for the marine animals,
Mm,
perhaps it's not good for me either. So thinking about deodorants, thinking about shampoos, all the different stuff that we put on our body, and then we go to the grocery store and we see these big aisles, and we're given the illusion of choice because they're really owned by like four big companies.
yep.
So, what are you telling your clients as far as what to look for in products that they're putting on their bodies and exposing themselves on a daily basis?
So, man, there's this cool website, and I'll look it up and I'll send it to you. But there's actually tons of apps now too, where you can scan an item and it'll tell you the products, the ingredients that are in it, and if they're dangerous or carcinogenic or whatnot. But what I tell people is, like kind of the kiss principle, keep it simple, stupid. Like you said, the less ingredients and the more simple something is, the better off it's going to be, right? So let's take a fruit, like this is an apple, like hopefully it hasn't been sprayed with pesticides or anything, but it's like eat the apple. Is one ingredient. Where if you can maybe look at, let's look, I mean, I'm making this up, and if I'm wrong, please forgive me, but if we look at like Mott's, applesauce, I'm sure there's a whole bunch of different things in there as opposed to just smashed apples. Um, so I now I tell people, man, eat whole foods And when I say Whole Foods, I'm not talking about the Amazon owned, chain. I'm just talking about, if you're eating steak, eat a steak. If it's vegetable, eat a vegetable. If it's rice on the side, eat rice. If it's fruit, eat fruit. And I personally believe now, in the spirit of balance and being able to have that choice, if you're just picking simple ingredients, man, you're doing the right thing. You can't
Yeah.
really you're that's clean.
If
Drink.
the label
Yeah.
says bioengineered,
Right.
don't buy it.
Right, genetically modified, bioengineered, like, man, I personally believe that, God made this world perfect, and the things that were growing from it were exactly what we needed, and, we started messing with it in the name of capitalism to, make things last longer and to be able to produce more of it and have it be bigger, and it really damaged our food supply and water supply and soil and everything else.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
it's tough.
So I want to make sure we get to a couple other topics. You do some really interesting training
Mhm.
that I was seeing, and I saw you swinging around a big club. I've seen you swinging around different things, and then obviously some explosive movements with bands, with machinery, stuff of that nature. Um, what's your methodology with training and getting the body right in that regard? Because you're doing some different movements than we would normally see at a weight training facility
For sure.
or a personal training facility.
So what I tell people is that our bodies are designed to move, and if you dissect the body and you see how our fascia is one big piece of tissue that connects everything to one another. So even if I just bend one finger, I've actually changed the fascial tensions throughout my entire body. So, with that being said, our primary function in life that we need for survival, evolutionarily speaking, things have obviously changed now, but is walking, running, throwing, and fighting, right? So, what that consists of is the upper body primarily rotates, and our lower body primarily moves forward and back. So when you look at traditional training that was, popularized by Joe Weider and bodybuilders, it's linear, it's isolated, and it's really good for what I would call hypertrophy of muscles and vanity and making muscles pop and grow. But it's not the best style of training for movement, athletic performance, and feeling good. So what we prioritize here is taking into account that upper body rotation, the lower extremity sagittal plane movement, legs moving forward and back, and a principal concept called contralateral reciprocation. So what happens on one side of our body, the opposite side needs to reciprocate it. So like as we walk, right, I might load into my right leg and my ribs turn to that right. And then as I step, I do the same thing on the left side, and that propels me forward and allows me to move. So nearly all of our training takes into account, or at least I say, as I'm programming, 85 to 90% of what I'm giving people takes into account that contralateral reciprocation, that type of movement, and then maybe 10% is, you know, isolated corrective exercise slash vanity style training.
That's awesome. And you use some big words in there that people are going to be like contraceptive.
Yeah. The what? The what of the
the,
what?
they're like, I'm going to have to look that up.
Yeah,
Anyhow,
listen to the
um,
podcast again and
yeah, just on that, on big words that we got to break down. Um, so if I want to, let's say I'm a corporate athlete
Mhm,
and or a business athlete, but I want to train like a professional athlete. I want to know what they're doing,
mhm.
right? So think about that as far as I think there's a movement, and I'm part of that. That I'm not a professional athlete, but I want all the stuff that they're getting.
Yeah,
Like LeBron James spends $1 million a year to keep his body going
right.
with his coaches, his cryotherapy, all that different stuff.
Mhm.
And you got a lot of that in your gym, but like what? And it's not just a gym. I understand that I'm simplifying,
Yeah, yeah,
but
no worries. Yep.
what would you tell people to look for if they wanted to train like one of these professional athletes?
Man, I mean, look for a facility like ours. The concept of what we're doing is catching up, and like you said, there's a movement towards it. I would say from the actual training perspective, professional athletes haven't really caught up to the style of training I'm talking about yet. They're still doing a lot of traditional stuff. And, you still see people with these non-contact injuries on football and basketball that, in my opinion, are completely preventable if they would change the style of training. But you know how when you have these institutions that have been in place for so long, it's hard to really change that culture, but little by little is moving that way. But I would look for. I think right now it's more boutique studios that specialize in things. I know when I'm dealing with my own health, I'm always like, I don't want to go to the Walmart of health. I want to go to that guy who is taking 10 different courses and is really trying to be a master of what he does. And he has these specializations. And those are the type of people that I seek out because I feel like they're highly specialized in what they do and they could bring something to my life that, I can't get at a big box place, like a physical therapy spot or whatnot. I can't say worldwide, like, hey, look up this place or that place because
Yeah.
they're yeah, but man, there's a lot of cool movement systems out there. Like a big popular one now is functional patterns, but I think they're doing some cool stuff. I mean, definitely check us out at ndwellness.com and ND_wellness on Instagram. We put a lot of free content out there, a lot of free content on our YouTube channel where you could dive into our style of training and what we do and our philosophies and mimic it. And man, we're super active on there too. So man, if you write on our Instagram and ask questions, man, we'll be more than happy to answer it and guide you in the right direction. Because at the end of the day, my purpose in life is to help people and to love people. And this place is just my catalyst to be able to do that. So um I always tell people, man, we're trying to change people's lives by reinventing health and what it means to be healthy.
I love that, man. I love your mission. And I want to double stamp what you just mentioned there because from my own personal experience, I've had better knowledge and experience from some personal trainers and physical therapists than my own doctors.
Oh yeah, all day.
So I had an issue going on with my shoulder and back, and went to see the doctor. Like it was persistent. This was many years ago. I had a personal trainer and physical therapist look at it, and they're like, "Oh, this is exactly what's going on."
Mhm.
And the doctors were searching for answers.
Right.
They had nothing for me. They're like, basically, like, "This is just you now," and and I almost accepted it. Like, well, I had all these years of football on my body. That just must be what it is. And I had a personal trainer and physical therapist look at it, and they were in the same fitness facility. And they had me doing some functional exercises. They had doing some massage body work on it. And
Yep.
literally within 2 weeks, I'm good.
Yeah. Man, Dana White, he posted something about this later where he was really shitting on doctors in the medical establishment. But I mean, I personally am on the same page. Like, look, hey, if I blow out my knee and I know my knee's blown out, I want to see an orthopedic surgeon and I want him to, do surgery. But as it pertains to my day-to-day health and little aches and pains, I mean, they got nothing, they got nothing for me. I mean, I haven't seen a doctor or a primary care physician in 20 something years. I don't take prescription drugs. Now I eat clean. I use homeopathic medication when I have things going on. Man, I pray, I meditate, I utilize a protocol called neuroemotional technique, which dives into how my brain responds to emotions and sending out neurotransmitters to, really do a deep dive in who I am as an individual and how I process information and how I want my body to feel. I do biomechanics training and functional movements. And, I'm 42 years old. I have no significant injuries. My body feels good 90% of the time. Now, granted, I choose to play sports, right? I train jujitsu. I'm a black belt in jujitsu. So, the nature of that sport, you're going to get banged up,
Yeah, you're
aches
rough.
happen. But again, looking back at my life, no surgeries, no significant injuries. I feel pretty good, man. I got my blood work done. Every single level is normal. I take supplements because we don't have the same vitamins and minerals and things that are in our food that we used to. So you have to supplement nowadays. So I make sure I take supplements based off of my blood work, and I feel like I'm on a good path to health. And if I continue down this path, I don't see why, I can't live to 80, 90, 100 years old, still moving, still out there playing golf, feeling good, enjoying life.
And that's the goal, right? It's to live as long as possible, as healthy as possible.
Yeah,
It's not just to live as long as possible.
I don't want to live long if I'm not healthy.
That's right. And then the other piece, I want to go back to your intuition that I was thinking about is you got to ask questions of the people that you're trusting your health to, whether that's your doctor, your personal trainer, your physical therapist, your chiropractor, whatever it is, you got to ask questions. And I want to give a personal example here. And I'm glad I have such a good chiropractor because he goes, Josh, as rough as you are in your body, I can do these adjustments, but if you're not getting massage work, your tight muscles are going to pull that right back out of alignment.
Yeah.
Right. Now, again, that's not necessarily his business to tell me that because he could make more money just continuing to adjust me every time that my muscles are so tight they pull me back out of alignment. So he is good and doing good by me to tell me, hey, go get this massage work done so that your adjustment takes and sticks and holds so that you can be as right as you can to train as hard as you want to train.
Exactly, man. That and that's a lot of people just don't have that knowledge or they don't know any better. So I really appreciate when I come across a healthcare practitioner that says things like that, and it's not just all about the money, and they're truly out there trying to help people. Um, and I do it here as far as personal examples. I mean, there's sometimes where I'm like, hey, look, man, I might not be the best solution for you. I think you should start maybe here, and then come see me later. So, I always appreciate those practitioners that have the what's the word? Maybe
Integrity.
the integrity to do that.
Integrity is the word to me.
Yeah, that's the word. I agree. That integrity. And man, integrity is lacking. So when you meet somebody that really does have good integrity, I tend to like those people.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Because you trust integrity. That's
Exactly.
the thing. And you
And
know it in your gut.
there's a feeling to it. Like, when you feel it, you're like, man, I like this person.
Yep. All right. I want to wrap up with you here quick. I always ask this question at the end of the show. So it's all, and this can go into anything we've spoken of or something we completely haven't spoken of that's just on your heart. What is a truth that you hold to be true that you think that others, or an unpopular belief that you hold to be true that most others would disagree with you on?
An unpopular belief. All right. This is all right. This one here. This is one that's on my heart. You're not who you think you are. You're not your personality. You're not your name. You're not your race. You're not your creed. You're not your gender. The stories that we tell ourselves on a day-to-day basis define our personality, but there's something deeper within us that recognizes when we're thinking or recognizes that personality. Not to get too religious on anything, but the Bible says the mind can't comprehend the things of the spirit, which means there's a clear distinction between our mind and our spirit. So anybody out there dealing with anxieties or stress or depression, and man, you don't know if you can make it, you don't know how you go on, or you've experienced loss or something happens, that's just thoughts and ideas and stories about who we think we are. But you're something way more special than that. Every cell in your body was forged from the cosmos, the stars, from the beginning of time until now. And if you can recognize that you're that person, that you're one with all, that you were created, by the Father in heaven, if you want to use biblical terms again, and you could move from that place, man, you'll start seeing how things in your life will change, and you speak with a little bit more authority, and you can move around this earth with more peace in your heart without letting these little things affect you. I have a quote on my WhatsApp. It says there's two rules in life. Rule number one, don't sweat the small stuff. Rule number two is all small stuff.
So good, brother. So good. Drop again where people can follow you in ND Wellness.
Man, so on Instagram, ND, so that stands for New Dimensions _ wellness. So ND _ wellness. Our website is ndwellness.com. Man, we're also on Facebook, New Dimensions Wellness, YouTube, New Dimensions Wellness. So But yeah, we're probably the most active on Instagram. So if you want to follow us there, ask questions, man, we'd be more than happy to help you guys out and connect and, grow as a species.
That's right, brother. Well, this has been so good. Thanks for taking the time. I know the Spartan audience got a lot out of this, and they're going to look up some words you used later.
Yeah.
I know I will as well. Man, it's been so good.
Hey, Josh,
Spartans.
man, I wanna thank you too, man, because I got those books that you sent me. Man, I really appreciate it, man. I can't wait to dive into those and pick your brain about how you implement those things, man. So, man, I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Hey, you got it. One of my favorite things is gifting others books so that we can, again, like you said, grow as a human species. So you're very much welcome. Spartans, remember the good and great are the enemies of possible. Share this episode. Lead like a Spartan today.
This is Sparta!